At the beginning of 2022, Russia sent tens of thousands of soldiers into neighbouring Belarus, a small Eastern European country that holds roughly 9 million people after breaking away from the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Belarus became strong allies of Russia and holds significant importance with its strategic location in the current Ukraine conflict. Belarus borders both Russia to the east and Ukraine to the south. With over 1,000 kilometers of border with friendly open terrain, the Belarus-Ukraine border holds significant importance to Russia. However, most importantly, its southern border is roughly 55 miles from Ukraine's capital Kiev, which the Russian army failed to capture early on in the conflict. These facts make Belarus potentially the most important factor in the coming months of the current war in Ukraine. In February last year, 30,000 Russian troops gathered around the southern border of Belarus before attempting an all-out attack, making it the largest military build-up since the Cold War, intending to conquer the capital Kiev, overthrow the current government of Zelensky and rule over Ukraine. As we all know, this is not how it turned out. Ukraine defense was surprisingly resilient. After suffering thousands of casualties and failing to overthrow Kiev, the remaining Russian troops retreated back into neighbouring Belarus. For months, Russia has attacked North Ukraine from Belarus. However, just recently, there are rumours of Russia preparing another major attack from southern Belarus and their target, the capital Kiev. Western satellite images have seen increased military presence at the southern border of Belarus. It is estimated by intelligence that 20,000 Russian troops have entered the country once again and are all gathering close to the border. Increased military equipment have been sent across the border from Russia into Belarus in the recent months, and even new roads are being created through forests to ensure smooth passage of army vehicles. Valery Zelensky, the head of Ukraine's armed forces, said there is no doubt that Russia will have another go at Kiev in the first few months of 2023. What's more concerning is that the expected attack from Russia could very well include the Belarus army. Just recently, a Russian foreign minister stated that Belarus may enter the Ukrainian conflict. Last month, Vladimir Putin made a rare foreign visit to Belarus to strengthen its bond between the country's president, Alexander Lukashenko. Putin said the two had also discussed the formation of a unified defense space, without describing what that would entail, and agreed to continue joint military exercises. Why exactly is Belarus so fond of Russia? I mean, Minsk stopped short of recognizing Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea and tried to mediate in that crisis. The relationship began to change in 2020 when Putin gained more sway over a weakened Lukashenko by supporting his crackdown on a well-organized opposition movement that threatened to topple him. Moscow gained further leverage by providing $1.5 billion in loans and striking preferential deals to supply oil and gas to the country. Sanctions imposed on Minsk by Western governments pushed Belarus further into Russia's corner. The country's leader, Lukashenko, is the one and only leader of the country that came into power at its formation in the 1990s. His ideology has always been to have Belarus a small version of the former USSR. Even the flag has remained very similar to its previous Soviet Union version, with the only exception being the removal of the hammer and sickle. They've even favoured the Russian language over Belarusian, with 70% of the population speaking Russian to only roughly 24% Belarusian. In 2020, 90% of Belarus children were attending Russian-spoken schools. Nearly 30 years after the fall of the Iron Curtain, Belarus remains a small pocket of its past Soviet days. Hence, the authoritarian ideology held by Lukashenko is one very similar to that of Russia's Vladimir Putin. In the 1990s, both Russia and Belarus joined a mini-Soviet alliance in the first steps to rebuild its Soviet past. Although that hasn't entailed completely, the two states allowed their citizens to freely move borders between the states and are continually conducting military drills between the two nation-states. The two countries have remained very close allies without the result of reunification. And of course, this is completely opposite to Ukraine as it's desired to move towards democracy and a NATO alliance. So the question remains whether Belarus will join Russia in its attacks on Ukraine. Belarus doesn't have many friends in the region, being bordered by 3 NATO-aligning states. Hence, a more forceful Putin could essentially force Belarus into joining the conflict in Ukraine. Let me know what you think, whether Belarus will actively invade Ukraine with Russia, or whether the possibility remains a very unlikely occurrence.